Wonderful day, wonderful day, wonderful day indeed. This here is your neighborhood Sensei Fouché. And I am strongly suggesting, because nobody likes to be told what to do. But in this time of extreme spiritual warfare, because there is a psychological warfare going on for spiritual control of your true identification of your soul. They want you to be asleep. They said wokeness is a problem. To be alert, to be aware is a problem. So I strongly implore for all of you beautiful souls, you wonderful, loving, self-loving people, to stay woke. Do not allow for them to convince you to be put to sleep. Stay woke. Be radiant. But when and if necessary, practice meditative steps. To relax. And always be prepared. To take those notes. I was about to grab that pad. Again, welcome to all you self-loving, wonderful souls. We family here. Or we will be. What am I getting out of this? The gratification to serve others, to not go through the emotional turmoil that I went through, or for anyone who is most interested to discontinue abusing yourself because of the abuse that you suffered long ago in your child being. We don't want you to suffer anymore. I got sick of being miserable. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I got sick and tired of feeling neglected. Not feeling important. Not feeling welcoming or welcomed, appreciated, valued. I mean, for a long time, I was damaged, and I'm sure a lot of others were also damaged. Parents, guardians, authoritative figures who were entrusted to nurture us children into a comfortable adult state of maturity. That was the hope. That was the responsibility. Supposedly. But the reality is, we were led by immature people. We were led by damaged people. And it wasn't even their fault. Before we move forward, let's shout out some sponsors before we forget. First shout out is to Opus Clips. Anyone that is into podcasting or extended video recording and you want to clip up any of your extended videos and you don't want to go through the overwhelming process of itemizing through the video over and over and over and over and over again in order to create multitudes of clips in a proper clipping, research and look up Opus Clips. It is an AI program which allows for you, in the process of a couple of clicks, to create a group of clips from one video. And you could choose which complement your preference yourself. There is a fee to be more itemized and specific into how you would like for the display to be seen. Different options with text and other options as well to create different complementary visual effects for your site. But Opus Clips is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? So Opus Clips, I use it all day, every day. It was recommended to me, and I am recommending it to you. Our next sponsor is composer, producer J.F. Winter and Nasty Noise Music Productions. N.N.M.P. is the acronym. All of our instrumentals and music compositions are provided by Mr. J.F. Winter, producer, composer of Nasty Noise Music Productions. N.N.M.P. is the acronym. It's on all platforms. As a matter of fact, J.F. Winter and Nasty Noise Music Productions produced the soon-to-be available Sensei Fouché album coming out next month on the 28th of June. And this is 2025. You know what I'm saying? So shout outs to JF Winter and Nasty Noise Music Productions. N.N.M.P. is the acronym. Look on any of your favorite sites, do a search, and follow the elephant in the room. And if you follow the elephant in the room, you will find yourself exactly at the pulse point of where Nasty Noise Music Productions resides. There's a lot of beautiful diversity in the orchestration and composition selection of instruments within the Nasty Noise Music Productions program. So please check it out. Please subscribe, and you don't have to overwhelm yourself with a bunch of lying lyrics. Because most of us are moving to the beat anyway. You know what I'm saying? Lyrics are just extra. And a lot of it is just, angry, aggressive, or over emotional, uncontrolled feelings expressed in words. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, Nasty Noise Music Productions, thank you very much. And NNMP, composer, Mr. J.F. Winter. That's the complete shout out. So, boom, there it is. So, what we have been covering since our immediate last conversation into new topic of reference with this novel, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And a lot of us are damaged psychologically, spiritually, emotionally. And these feelings were developed in the earliest stages of our life, most probable, with the highest levels of trauma occurring earliest in our living existence. We're guided by emotionally immature and damaged people. Because parents are no more than just a definition to a type of person, to someone specific. So for me, this is about emotionally immature people and how to not only detect them in others, but mostly to identify the immaturity within us that keeps us limited towards our exponential and exponential growth, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. You know what I'm saying? Was your parent difficult, immature, or emotionally unavailable? If you grew up with an emotionally immature, unavailable, or selfish parent, you may have lingering feelings of anger, loneliness, betrayal, or abandonment. You may recall your childhood as a time when your emotional needs were not met, when your feelings were dismissed, or when you took on adult levels of responsibility in an effort to compensate for your parents' behavior or neglect or abandonment. These wounds can be healed and you can move forward in your life. Trust me, it's definitely possible. It just takes your deepest will. Well, Mr. Sensei Fouché, how can you make it sound so simple? It's not. It becomes easier the more that you are committed into a different way of thinking, understanding, programming, and processing. I was an alcoholic for 28 years. 28 years, hardcore alcoholic. hard drug addict for 17 years. I don't drink or do hard drugs anymore. At all. The urge is extremely minimal, if at all. And that if it ever becomes a thought, it is immediately dismissed and moved on from. Because I'm not interested in being angry or out of control with my feelings. That is immature. It is. It's very immature. We claim to be grown. We claim to be adults. We claim to be responsible. But for most of us, the truth is, we don't have it together. We still are damaged. Our memories still are tainted. And we are emotionally and psychologically and spiritually immature. And that's the reality. And when you are transparent, that's when you begin to become aware and absorb in transparency with openness. And you start to understand solutions way more than problems by identification and transparency within truth. So moving forward in this conversation, prior from the last, which was our introduction chapter, but we're going to start reading from chapter 1. How emotionally immature parents affect their adult children's lives. Emotional loneliness, and pardon me for a second. Emotional loneliness comes from not having enough emotional intimacy with other people. It can start in childhood due to feeling emotionally unseen by self-preoccupied parents. Or it can arise in adulthood when an emotional connection is lost. Like, you went from puppy love into full-blown love, and this was supposed to be your always and forever, and then boom, the bubble was burst, and she broke up with you, and you are in a psychological displacement of confusion, rage, anger, and a bunch of other emotional traits that tag along with a slow progression into depression. If it's been a lifelong feeling, it points to the likelihood of not being sufficiently emotionally responded to as a child. These parents may look and act perfectly normal, going to work every day, suit and tie, perfect hair, makeup done, nicely pressed dress, nice, clean attire, just servants of the world. You know what I'm saying? And they're in disguise because behind the scenes, you as children knew or know what's really going on behind the mask that is portrayed out in the public that are defined as being your parents, your guardians, your authoritative leads. are secretly failing individuals with high levels of psychological and emotional damage that they are passing forward. So again, these parents may look and act perfectly normal, caring for their child's physical health and providing meals and safety. You get cut, take you to the doctor if it's bad enough. You know what I'm saying? Give you a place to live and feed you meals. But where's the deeper care, the deeper psychological development, the deeper emotional understanding? It's missing. It's not there. However, if they don't make a solid emotional connection with their child, the child will have a gaping hole where true security might have been. The loneliness of feeling unseen by others is as fundamental a pain as physical injury. The psychological, emotional damage is just as severe as the physical damage or abuse. The abuse is not only physical, but it is equally damaging psychologically and emotionally. So again, the loneliness of feeling unseen by others is as fundamental a pain as physical injury, but it doesn't show on the outside. Emotional loneliness is a vague and private experience, not easy to see or describe. The loneliness of feeling unseen by others is as fundamental a pain as physical injury, but it doesn't show on the outside. And I already read that. Some people have called this feeling existential loneliness, but there's nothing existential about it. If you feel it, it came from your family. Children have no way of identifying a lack of emotional intimacy in their relationship with the parent. It isn't a concept they have. They don't understand it deeper yet because their brain development still isn't at its full maturity to be able to understand basic adult principles. And it's even less likely that they can understand that their parents are emotionally immature. When you're that young, you know what I'm saying, you just take the abuse. Or as you get older, you just see it as the way things are. You know what I'm saying? The way things should be or are supposed to be. Like, you can't identify the difference of, you know, a healthy and unhealthy relationship. You probably identify mostly, as well as will excuse unhealthy behavior and unhealthy patterns in relationships because that is what you're used to. And you will mock and ostracize the healthy relationships and more than likely label those people as having something wrong with them for being too in control and too happy. All they have is a gut feeling of emptiness, which is how a child experiences loneliness. With a mature parent, the child's remedy for loneliness is simply to go to the parent for affectionate connection. But if your parent was scared of deep feelings, you know what I'm saying, because they were damaged and they don't understand how to deal with feelings or how to absorb the feeling of others, so their reactions are strictly aggressive. But if your parent was scared of deep feelings, you might have been left with an uneasy sense of shame for needing comforting. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to make you feel guilty for wanting that softness, that soft connection. They are going to belittle your need for that softer connection or embrace, that emotional embrace. When the children of emotionally immature parents grow up, the core emptiness remains, even if they have a superficially normal adult life. So that's going to fall right back into the pattern, right? Superficially, you go to work, you do your job, you have on your proper attire, uniform or suit or whatever dress attire, you show up, you do your job, you communicate on a base level, but behind the scenes, there's something totally lost and disconnected that someone that's not as interrelated full time with someone wouldn't pick up on a whole lot sooner. Their loneliness can continue into adulthood if they unwittingly choose relationships that can't give them enough emotional connection. They may go to school, work, marry, and raise children, but all the while, they'll still be haunted by that core sense of emotional isolation. So they, fill up their lives with the marriage, children, friends, but it really doesn't matter because since they were raised in a damaged environment, and they're still connected to that damage, then the damage is going to be residual into this fantasy created image of life that they think is going to be real and make them complete, as opposed to the things they were missing in their period of growing up. You know what I'm saying? I always say that two incomplete people do not make them whole, because more than likely they're holding less than half of the pie, as well as you. If you have more damage and they have a lot of damage, then how do you complete yourself? You just got two damaged people. So if you got one person operating at, let's say, 25%, and you operating at 30%, that's 55%. So how does that make you whole? The children that you create, they don't have any experience. And then because of their inexperience and their immaturity, you're going to be frustrated because that is the order and mannerism that you're used to and comfortable with, because that's how you were raised, with the immaturity and the frustration. And then you're going to wind up immature and frustration in how you deal with immature and frustrated youngings, who in reality, that is the order of how and who they should be, because they are novice to the existence of living. So they really shouldn't know any better, and it is someone that is supposed to be more evolved to show and grow them in a proper direction of care. But if someone or both parents or guardians are extremely lacking and limited, then how does that work with you moving forward and trying to lead other inexperienced people? Emotional intimacy involves knowing that you have someone you can tell anything to. For me, it wasn't my parents. It was my aunts. 3 out of my 5 aunts. You know what I'm saying? I could talk to them about most, if not anything. And if I felt too afraid or shameful in sharing, they would pry in the most loving and comfortable firmness in order to express how important it is for me to communicate and share my feelings, because they knew they were trusted people that would give me sound advice into how to move forward psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. So thank you to those beautiful women. 2 of them aren't around anymore. And their offspring, their children, my cousins, are beautiful people. You know what I'm saying? So I thank them as well for carrying on. You feel completely safe opening up to the other person, whether in the form of words, through an exchange of looks, or by just being together quietly in a state of connection. Emotional intimacy is profoundly fulfilling, creating a sense of being seen for who you really are. They don't want you to pretend. Like my aunts, they wanted me to be the real me. Be respectful in being the real me. Not just pretending for the sense of someone's ego that everything's okay and submit to them in fear of their abuse in order for them to feel control and a sense of entitled importance. Emotional intimacy is profoundly fulfilling, again, creating a sense of being seen for who you really are. It can only exist when the other person seeks to know you, not judge you. As children, the basis for our security is emotional connection with our caretakers. Emotionally engaged parents make children feel that they always have someone to go to. That should be your parents. For me, it was Auntie Brenda and Auntie Hattie. Man, I miss those women. And Auntie Ada, you know, we had a moment, a real good moment. You know what I'm saying? But I got to shout you out too. So, you know, honors to Aunt Ada, because she's one of the 3 trusted women in my life that is still around from an older guardian perspective. You know what I'm saying? And I have 2 other aunts, Maxine and Beverly. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to discredit them at all. They just have a different way about them that wasn't as connected as I was to my Aunt Brenda, my Aunt Hattie, as well as my Aunt Ada. So, as children, the basis for our security is emotional connection with our caretakers. Emotionally engaged parents make children feel that they always have someone to go to. This kind of security requires genuine emotional interactions with parents. Parents who are emotionally mature engage in this level of emotional connection almost all the time. They've developed enough self awareness to be comfortable with their own feelings as well as those of other people. More importantly, they're emotionally attuned to their children, noticing their children's moods and welcoming their feelings with interest. A child feels safe connecting with such a parent, whether seeking comfort or sharing enthusiasm. Mature parents make their children feel that they enjoy engaging with them and that it's fine to talk about emotional issues. These parents have a lively, balanced emotional life and are usually consistent in their attentiveness and interest towards their children. They are emotionally dependable. Parents who are emotionally immature, on the other hand, are so self-preoccupied that they don't notice that their children's inner experiences. In addition, they discount feelings and they fear emotional intimacy. They're uncomfortable with their own emotional needs and therefore have no idea how to offer support at an emotional level. Such parents may even become nervous and angry if their children get upset, punishing them instead of comforting them. These reactions shut down children's instinctive urge to reach out, closing the door to emotional contact. If one or both of your parents weren't mature enough to give you emotional support as a child, you would have felt the effects of not having it, but you wouldn't necessarily have known what was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because the cycle on top of the cycle on top of the cycle has you believing that that's normal. That's the way it's supposed to be. You know, people that the few that example something contrary to what you know and exist in, you goof it. You don't believe for it to be real. You know, you mock it and you minimize it. And you probably also will attack it and label it in judgment because that's what you're used to. As a child, you had no way of knowing that this hollow feeling is a normal, universal response to lacking adequate human companionship. And I had to find my place for a minute, so let me go back a little bit into my reading. You might have thought that feeling empty and alone was your own private, strange experience, something that made you different from other people. And let's go back a little bit before that. If one or both of your parents weren't mature enough to give you emotional support as a child, you would have felt the effects of not having it, but you wouldn't necessarily have known what was wrong. You might have thought that feeling empty and alone was your own private, strange experience, something that made you different from other people. Like, no one else is going through that but you. But then again, you're not Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway talking to a volleyball. As a child, you had no way of knowing that this hollow feeling is a normal universal response to lacking adequate human companionship. Emotional loneliness is a term that suggests its own cure. Being on the receiving end of loneliness isn't an odd or senseless feeling. It's the predictable result of growing up without sufficient empathy from others. Once you start listening to your emotions instead of shutting them down, they will guide you toward an authentic connection with others. Knowing the cause of your emotional loneliness is the first step toward finding more fulfilling relationships. And we are going to end our reading for the day right there. And the reason why is because we do not want to overwhelm our time when there is so much more that we are going to cover in this chapter. You know what I'm saying? So, matter of fact, let me hold on a second. Let's move into reading a little bit more and then we'll end it, all right? Emotional loneliness is so distressing that a child who experiences it will do whatever is necessary to make some kind of connection with the parent. These children may learn to put other people's needs first as the price of admission to a relationship. Instead of expecting others to provide support or show interest in them, they may take on the role of helping others, convincing everyone that they have few emotional needs of their own. Unfortunately, this tends to create even more loneliness since covering up your deepest needs prevents genuine connection with others. So you think the way to deal with your lacking is to try to help and fix someone else when you are not fixed or complete within yourself. You know what I'm saying? So then you go externally to try to guide others, but in time, your frustration and overwhelmment in your own insecurity is going to minimize or disconnect that relationship, feeling, or connection with whoever or whatever you think you're trying to control. Lacking adequate parental support or connection, many emotional deprived children are eager to leave childhood behind. They perceive that the best solution is to grow up quickly and become self-sufficient, right? Parents can't take care of me, so as soon as I'm able to, I'll be able to take care of myself. You know what I'm saying? But you wasn't trained to know how to take care of yourself. You just think that you learned how to take care of yourself. These children become competent beyond their years, but lonely at the core. And so they think they're competent. In the book right now, it reads competent, but it's going to disprove their own thought of competency. They often jump into adulthood prematurely, getting jobs as soon as they can become sexually active. Or, my fault, getting jobs as soon as they can, becoming sexually active, marrying early, or joining the service. They look forward to adulthood, believing it offers freedom and a chance to belong. Sadly, in their rush to leave home, they may end up marrying the wrong person, tolerating exploitation, or staying with a job that takes more than it gives. They often settle for emotional loneliness in their relationships because it feels normal to them, like their early home life. You know what I'm saying? Because their home life is so damaged, that's what they're used to. So then they connect onto something that is familiar, which is that pain. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't know how to be healthy. All they know is unhealthiness. It's like, in comparison, asking someone to eat healthy and their whole life they were fed off of Taco Bell, McDonald's, and Little Caesars. You know what I'm saying? Then you asking them to eat carrots and asparagus and Brussels sprouts. And they're like, no thank you. The most primitive parts of our brain tell us that safety lies in familiarity. We gravitate to situations we have had experience with because we know how to deal with them. Or so you think you do. You know what I'm saying? You're just used to the frustration. So you're like, that's the way life is and has always been. And that's the way, I know for it to be. That's normal. As children, we don't recognize our parents' limitations because seeing our parents as immature or flawed is frightening. Unfortunately, by denying the painful truth about our parents, we aren't able to recognize similarly hurtful people in future relationships. The people that we are going to be a part of in our lives are no different than the people that we just left in our prior life. Denial makes us repeat the same situation over and over because we never see it coming the next time. And on that note, we are going to end our reading. So again, you know what I'm saying? You fall into these cycles. This whole life system is a cycle of either negative or positive, depending on your mind state of being or just simply existing. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to end our segment here and state that tomorrow's another day. As far as our next moment in conversation, I am not going to record the next conversation tomorrow. I'm going to tell you that right now. But our next conversation, continuing into chapter 1, is going to complete itself in the next moment. So really comprehend the words and the difference between mature and immature. And we're going to start to break that down a little bit more moving forward. A little bit more moving forward. I had to have this conversation with my daughter about maturity and immaturity because she's 16, you know what I'm saying? And we were going through, parent-child stuff, and I'm speaking to her in terms of, what do you label as mature? How would you define mature? And how would you define immature? You know what I'm saying? Because from being that young, you want to break free, and you think that you're mature. You're able to do things on your own. You know everything. I mean, we all been through it. Us that are older, when we were young and we have children, and we're hearing the same repeat cycles of what we told our parents. You know what I'm saying? But in the reality, you're not really mature. And once you understand and practice what maturity really is in consistent succession, You know what I'm saying? Then you can label yourself in truth because of how you move. So on that note, I am going to say to all you wonderful, self-loving, beautiful souls, this is your neighborhood Sensei Fouché, live and direct today, right here for you. I came here for you to be able to learn how to help yourself in this time of extreme spiritual warfare. I am suggesting correction. I am strongly imploring for all of you to not be convinced by this current establishment or any future establishment to go to sleep and become dormant and doofus-like. I want you to command yourself to stay woke. And when and if necessary, do all meditative practices in any and all moments to be relaxed, so you can be always in preparation to take those notes. Be smooth. Unity in one.